I'm Jen. I'm from Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and you're watching Etsy Shop Audits. For some reason, last year, things just started tanking, and I don't know why. So I've been in a bit of a scramble trying to figure out why that is, trying to change things, and it hasn't made any difference. It's probably made it worse. And I feel like my store and my head, everything is just like a big blip.
All right, so we are going to dive in to your Etsy shop audit now, Jen. And the name of the shop is Mabel and Milo. Shop age, you opened it in 2021. The niche said pivoting to moms. We're going to talk about that. Sticking point, why sales are declining. Total revenue to date is $18,900. That's in Canadian dollars. I did a little bit of a conversion. It's around $14,000 US. And then income goal is $2,000 to $3,000 per month. Is that accurate?
That sounds about right.
Okay.
The niche, however,
Okay.
That's a sticking point with me. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, we're gonna dig into that for sure. And Chris, I'm sure you're getting her shop pulled up so we can share that here shortly. But I do want to dive into, and you had wrote inside your intake form more than I could fit in the whole sticking point of the declining, right? It's you had some really good sales, and then just over the last year, you've really seen a steady decline. Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, sure. So I started back in 2021, around July, August is when I launched. And, I recognized that it would take, it wouldn't, shoot right up to like $10,000 a month, like, you see online sometimes. And that was fine. So I was, steadily inclining and going up, and which was great. And then Q4 hit, and I did okay. That was great. And then for some reason last year, things just started tanking, and I don't know why. So I've been in a bit of a scramble trying to figure out why that is, trying to change things, and it hasn't made any difference. It's probably made it worse than anything else. And I feel like my store and my head, everything is just like a big blip. I'm basically the product of watching all of the other gurus and all of these other ideas, and it just like has spit out blah. So I can't describe it anymore better than that, to be honest. So that's where I'm at.
It's very, very common. Let me just say that it is. It's not like, I think a lot of people, when they first start, they're starting not necessarily with like, I love horses, so I'm going to create a business around horses.
Right.
Right. It's more of, I heard you can make money on Etsy, and I can sell t-shirts and trending or whatever. And that's where I'm going to start. So everyone starts because they want to make money, which is yes, but they never start. Usually the Etsy people, Amazon people, anybody that's starting on a platform, they're trying to see what is selling. How can I sell it?
Yeah.
And that seems to be a very common thing. And it is, you're right. A lot of the, Etsy gurus out there are basically saying like, find a product that's selling well, go into multiple niches. Can that work? It can work, but it's a drag.
Oh
right?
my, yeah, total burnout here. I mean, I have to say over the last few weeks, I've just been like, I can't do this anymore. It's like I have a full-time job. I'm a mom. I can't do that anymore. It's not sustainable. And I should mention too, I do have another Etsy store. I started it a few years ago. It's but it's more handmade stuff. And when I was going through YouTube, I came across somebody talking about POD, and I like the challenge of it, but it's just way too much of a challenge now. Like yeah.
Okay. So now you said, again, we're going to dig into like who you're targeting, because when you started and you got into the print on demand, you were probably going after whatever was selling.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
And so now you said like, well, the sales have declined. Has that product declined?
It's funny because there's like 4 different things that sell when they do sell, and none of them are related to each other. whatsoever. Yeah, I can't see
Okay.
any sort of pattern.
Okay. Chris, why don't we pull up the shop now, and then we can maybe you can point out too and tell us what ones are the ones that have sold that did well. So, okay. So we're looking at the banner. Looks fine, right? Yeah, looks good. You're showing off some of your products. Simple logo, clean. That looks good. Picture of you, great. 504 sales, 5 stars. Great, right? Like everything's here looking good. Yeah, keep scrolling, Chris. Okay, so wait a minute. Just stop there. Go back up to the announcement. So stay in the loop, learn about sales and new products. Okay. So one thing there I would say is like, that's great that you have that there, but people aren't going to type in https:// email.everbee.io, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. Right. So that's where, and I've told people this before, like buy a domain name, $10 a year. Your first year will be 99 cents if you go through GoDaddy. And then, and then you just buy a domain name that's like MabelandMiloVIP.com. There's your name. And then basically you put that in there. Now people can go and type it in. You can also put it up in your banner. You can also put it in an image slot. That right there, people are not going to type that all in.
The other thing about that stands out to me, Scott, is stay in the loop, learn about sales and new products. Cool, right? Like that's kind of the reaction people have. We need to give people a reason to go do it. And it sounds like saying learn about new products is cool. No one cares unless they really care.
Right.
And so the reason Scott almost always defaults to the join our VIP list for sweepstakes, giveaway, like whatever the thing is that they're going to get when they sign up, and also to learn about, right? So it's giving them a real reason to go join. We do monthly giveaways or for discounts, right? That is a much more compelling reason than to learn about sales. Okay, cool. That's like a future thing that maybe you're going to email me about versus something that feels a little bit more tangible, like giveaways. They're like, oh, okay, they're going to consistently send me giveaways, as opposed to every once in a while when Jen has the creative juices flowing, she's going to launch a new product and tell me about it via email. I'll follow the shop and Etsy will notify me, right?
Yeah.
So if we can give them a compelling reason to do that and then swap out that URL for MabelandMiloVIP.com, that would probably be a better way of going.
And also, Chris, before you keep moving on here, if you ever look at any of the other website e-commerce, so I always tell people like we have to think about this as e-commerce, not as just Etsy, right? And so if you go to a website to go buy something, right? Like I went not that long ago looking for my father, and he likes salmon, so I went to the Alaskan salmon thing, right? Like I went to their website where they catch salmon and they ship it, they cold freeze it and flash freeze it and send it right to your door. And I'm like, cool. I go there. The first thing that pops up is like, get 20% off your first order. Enter your email address and you get 20% off your first order. I'm like, cool. Who isn't doing that? Right? Who isn't going to do it? Right? So even if you didn't want to do VIP, or even if you wanted to use the VIP, but give them something instantly, say, get 20% off your first order. And then all you would do is your first email that would go out as a follow-up would say, thanks for joining our VIP list. Here's your discount code. And you would just put it in there, like literally. So like Chris said, there's gotta be a reason, a compelling reason right now
for them type of thing.
But right now that's not really our issue. That's something we noticed. Like that's not what's taking your sales and bringing them down. And that could increase your sales if we had the right audience and the right products that aligned with the audience. Gotcha. And I think that's going to be more of our doing some research here. So like out of all of your products here, which one should we be keying in on that have sold? Or Chris, maybe you run the numbers. I don't know.
Yep. Probably better to run the numbers. Yep. Now there's a lot that have expired. And partly I have not renewed them just because either nobody's ever purchased them, so I'm not going to bother, or will they fit into my new niche, whatever that does end up being, that sort of thing. But actually I can tell you, number 2 is probably one of the, those are the best ones.
Okay. So so we have what's this one here? Hope, faith, courage, strength, sweatshirt, cancer shirt, breast cancer awareness. Okay. It's breast cancer awareness. Got it. Then we're Christmas lab crew neck. So now we're okay. A lab. Okay. Murder shows.
Murder shows and
Okay.
comfy clothes.
Okay.
And
then
Wordle.
Yeah, that I should mention that Wordle mug was actually featured.
Hey, I wanted to cut in here real quick. If you're wondering what tool we're using to gather all of this information and to really make these important decisions on products, well, the tool is called Everbee. It's the only tool that we personally use for everything Etsy. They have everything from product research, keyword research, and they also offer email marketing now. That tool you can get access to absolutely free when you visit brandcreators.com/Everbee, and you'll get 10 free searches for the month. You can try it out before you invest in this tool. My recommendation is every single Etsy seller should be using this tool. So if you want to try it, go to brandcreators.com/Everbee, and you can go ahead and get access to it immediately. All right, let's get back to the audit.
Featured in a BuzzFeed article
Really?
some time ago, and I was like, why are so many people buying this? And then I figured it out. But yeah,
That's funny. Okay. Okay. So yeah, like you said, kind of all over the place.
all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me ask you this. What would you want? Like, again, like, let's pretend like you haven't even started.
Mhm.
Let's just pretend you haven't even started. And we're sitting down and I'm like, what would you like? You're doing like your handmade stuff. What's the handmade stuff?
Oh, it's like cupcake toppers, party items, that sort of thing.
Okay. Okay. I'm immediately thinking like, weddings, and I'm thinking like, maybe baptism or christening or, I don't know, other special occasion graduations. Like there's all these other events, I guess. That's immediately where my mind went. And even though it's like handmade, we might not want to do all handmade because it takes so much time and all of that stuff. But immediately we knew who our audience was.
Yes. Yeah. And it's funny you should say that, because I've been thinking about this since I wrote to you. And I think I've kind of landed. I was going towards moms, but that seemed way too vague.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of leaning in on the life milestones, because that would allow me to not just do POD, but also introduce other products, not just t-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, the huge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So milestones, tell me a little bit more about that. So like, what would like a product right away, like you can think of that would be for that, or not even a product, but like, what would someone be symbolizing, or that they would want to symbolize a special event?
Yeah, like retirement, for example. Maybe items that would be related to retirement, cards, or cupcake items, like I said, like party items, that sort of thing. T-shirts would also apply to that, mugs,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of angle.
Okay. Yeah, I think the mom, like you said, like the mom thing is very vague, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to go like it. Yes, you could be, focusing on it, your customer is a mom, right? But you could probably just say like, unless you were going to do stuff that was only for a mom, but you could say really maybe it's for just women, But I think if we take that example of like cupcake, right? Like there's probably stuff you can do just in the dessert arena, right? People that are just chocoholics, or you know what I mean? Like whatever. Like there is something. I mean, we just did an Etsy shop audit with some quirky earrings with fruits and donuts and like things like that people want to represent that. So there's a possibility. Again, you can see where I'm going, but like you have handmade stuff that you've already kind of started to dabble in on another Etsy shop that is about cupcakes or, that type of stuff, toppers. Yeah. So Chris, maybe we just play there. Like, would that be something like if we were to sit down and go, let's create a business plan for you, and you'd be like, oh, cupcakes. There's a, I like designing, or I like coming up with these handmade things for this. would that be something that would be like, you would say, if I could have a business around that, that would be cool?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You see that's where I would always want to start. Right. So if you had your cupcake thing or your topper thing over here,
Mhm.
but then you saw someone say, hey, on Etsy, you can sell and make this. And you're like, cool, cupcakes, bye-bye. I'm going over here.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're here kind of like, don't get me wrong. What you've done already, you've learned a ton, right? You've learned print on demand. You've learned customer support. You've learned all of that stuff. So it didn't go to waste. It's just now we have to recalibrate.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah.
So Chris, maybe we could do some playing here with like the cupcake stuff or dessert stuff or topper stuff and see where that leads us. I definitely think you're going to have more opportunity there, and you're going to create a customer base that potentially you could sell more things to at the time of purchase and in the future.
Okay.
So Chris, what do you got? You got anything pulled up that we can?
Yeah. So where do you want to start? Since we're talking cupcakes, do we just want to start with cupcakes?
Let's start with cupcakes.
Love cupcakes.
I'm going to be.
This is the scientific part of the process where we go, let's pick a keyword.
Yeah.
And then we drill in and start to see what works.
But I'm just curious, Chris, go on up and just do I want to see auto populate. I want to see what's coming up when you just typed in cupcakes and then just like, yep, there you go. Toppers, right? Stand, SVG, inboxes. So right away, like cupcake or cupcakes topper. And you said you're already doing that, right? Like so you already have that.
Yep.
So we already have a place to start. Can we go there, Chris, real quick? And then we can just kind of see where this leads us. And then maybe I'm just curious, just run the numbers on this page. Let's just get right down to it.
You want me to do the entire database or just?
Yeah, I don't know. That's going to probably bog her down a little bit, but I guess we'll try.
That was actually a lot faster.
That was actually pretty good. Wow. Everbee must have updated their server. Okay, cool. So let's see. Now, the other thing, I would do here too, probably, Chris, is maybe filter. And we could filter, make sure that, I guess we want topper in there. And I would want it to include topper. And if you guys haven't played around with the Everbee filters, you really should, because it can save you a ton of time. And it can sort through a whole bunch. Like we're sorting through like 49 million listings. Hey, real quick, I wanted to give you a little behind the scenes on how these Etsy shop audits even happen. Every single month, Chris Schaefer and I, we meet and we batch record 3 to 4 of these episodes. Then they get edited and they get posted like the one you're watching right now. But what we decided to do is create what we call our Backstage Pass Club. This is where all of our club members, they get to join us on that recording as we're doing it live. The other cool thing is you're able to ask questions, and you also can get access to the recordings before they ever air, immediately, raw and unedited. You even get all the questions that were asked that you might have missed because, well, maybe you couldn't attend that one live. So if you'd like to be part of our Backstage Pass Club and join our next batch recording session, head on over to brandcreators.com/club or click the link in the description. Now let's get back to the audit. So yeah, then what do we got there? So Lucky One cupcake, topper, your own photo on the topper. That's I could see that as being something. Kids' birthday parties for a cake topper. 2024 personalized graduation. That's obvious. So now these all, again, would be more on your handmade side.
Yes.
Okay. So how much time do you have for handmade?
Well, that was part of the challenge. I kind of miss it, to be honest, so I don't mind going back to it.
Okay.
Part of my challenge, though, was I would get stressed out when I would make some sales, and also the Canadian postal system is a little bit difficult to navigate in the sense that I often don't know how much something will actually cost to mail, because it's not cheap. in Canada, unfortunately, to mail things. So I found that a little bit of a challenge. That's a little bit why I like the POD. I didn't have to worry about it. A sale came through and it was dealt with. But again, I'd rather not be burned out and worried about and deal with that. If it means doing handmade stuff, then so be it.
Yeah. Okay. And again, I think we could still, we're starting with the handmade, but I think we could bolt on some pod. We're just trying to look at like what you already have existing, what you enjoy doing. And then also from there, is there products that have good demand that we could reach that audience and then pull the audience in? And then once we pull the audience in, we can expose them to our print on demand stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of how I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So Jen, on the handmade side of things, is there a particular occasion or type of topper that has been selling really well for you?
It was baby showers, baby related, of course. Okay. Gender reveals, that sort of thing.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, gender
So
reveals.
I feel like I did not imagine this, but correct me if I'm wrong. You mentioned a few minutes ago that one of the ways you were leaning was towards like milestone moments.
Yes.
That plays really well into that. Just saying, right? Yeah. So there may be something there where we can take what's already working on the handmade side, add in the print on demand within that shop, simplify our lives, and be able to really dive deep into that milestone moments niche. You're still able to do the handmade stuff when you're selling it. And you're able to sell the print on demand stuff that appeals to the same crowd, cross-sell and upsell, and have all of the benefits of having the niche focused shop and just create a milestone moments shop.
I like that. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah.
I like it a lot because it's something you already like doing. And again, if you and I were sitting down at the table and you're like, I really want to start a business around something I enjoy, and you're like, I want to do toppers and milestones because it's number one, it feels good, right? Because you're giving something to someone that's meaningful. And you enjoy it. So I'm like, cool, let's see if there's something here. And then we go on to Etsy as doing some research and we're like, oh yeah, look at this Etsy toppers. It's a pretty big thing. I mean, Etsy top, cake toppers. It's a pretty big thing. Wow. Okay. Well, let's drill in. What kind of occasions? And then we start. So you could literally be like, all right, cake topper is like the top, no pun intended, is the top of like our little umbrella. And then we're like, okay, what are all the occasions?
Yeah.
Right. So now you almost like if you had a piece of paper, you'd write like, okay, cake topper or toppers. And then you would put like all the different occasions. And then now all of a sudden we have all of these sub niches. And then we also now can start thinking, okay, that's our lead in. Which one of these has the most potential? We're going to now do the research following that. And then from there, we're like, okay, cool. That's where we're going to start because we have the most demand there. Now, what else could we do for that occasion? Oh, it's graduation. We could do a fun shirt. We could do a fun mug. We can do a fun, like all of that stuff that we're not creating those products to get to get in front of the demand because it's not there. But if we get people in, they might want to buy the mug. They might want to buy the shirt, and we wouldn't advertise that stuff. We would only advertise those stuff that has demand.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. The other cool thing is then we're building a real business because now you could literally build a customer base and email people and let them know about, hey, if you know someone who's having a graduation and you wanted to get a cake topper, make sure you get it in before this because this, or we're running a special this week because of this, or hey, we got 4th of July cake toppers if anyone, for their cupcake tray or whatever, right? And all of that stuff. So there's a lot that you can do with the email list too. So it's like that's to me the answer. And it would make you feel like, oh, I know what I'm focusing on.
Yes.
Right.
That would be amazing. It's already starting to become more clear. Yes.
Yeah.
This is very helpful.
Yeah. And I think sometimes when you're in the weeds, it's hard to kind of, see everything, right? Because you're in it and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like everything. Like, what do I do? What way do I go? It's like in the corn maze, you're like, I don't know. But you zoom out and you're like, oh, that's where I need to go, And I think that a lot of times that's all that we really have to do, Chris and I, is just zoom out a little bit and see all the pieces and kind of see where it fits together. To me, it's obvious. you've already started the other business. You just kind of paused it because you saw over here that people were selling trending shirts, and now you got a chocolate lab or a black lab shirt, and you've got a wordy Wordle or whatever mug, and so that's why your sales are declining, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I would separate myself from that, and I would start focusing on the other.
Okay.
Really. And we can do some more research. I mean, we have time, we can do more research and kind of go in there, but I mean, that's kind of like, that's where I would start. I would sit down and I would literally write that out. I would be like, okay, cake toppers, what have been your best sellers? And you're like, okay, it's been christenings or it's been graduations or whatever. And then you start there, but then you look at all of the other ones, and the other ones you're going to find by doing your research. Just like Chris opened up, he did cake toppers or cupcake toppers or whatever. You can do both. And then you can start to see like, okay, what occasions are getting the most searches, the most demand, and then you kind of, and it's very similar to what we talked about with our last audit, was like, you might have to find the seasons, and then you build your cake toppers for the seasons. And then wherever there's a cake topper, there's also another suite of products that go around the cake topper. Right?
Yeah. I have confetti in there too. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm trying to remember what I was doing in there, but
beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's there. Chris, you got something else you wanted to add there? It looks like you're kind of chomping at the bit there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think where I would probably start is just, and you can do it yourself, or you can use something like ChatGPT to be like, give me a list of every life event, right? And just kind of list that out, because for the first, 12 months, people are counting by months. And then, when somebody says I have a 19-month-old, that feels weird to me. I'm like, it's a year and a half, but whatever. Right?
I've always said that.
I'm like, it's 2 years old, right? Like, let's have a conversation. But for the first few years, you're counting in months, and then you're going to years. And then inside of that, that's just birthdays, right? You're going to have baby's first Halloween, baby's first Christmas, right? All of those kinds of things. So I would start with that giant list, and that's all of your opportunities.
Okay.
And then instead of feeling panicked, I would take a step back and say, what cake toppers have I sold already?
Okay.
What is already ranking for me? And can I create products that go along with it? And once we've exhausted that, then when we have those creative juices flowing, we start looking at the demand of the other stuff to say, all right, now that I have built out some products around the cake toppers that somebody may want to buy that I'm already selling, now I'm going to take a step back and go look at demand and say, I want to start with baby's first Christmas because there's a lot of demand and I feel like I can stick my foot in the door there. Or it's August and I have nothing better to do other than design Christmas stuff. And that feels like a good way to start.
Right.
And so if we want to create that list, but that's not necessarily where we're going to start on the creation side of things. That's just where we're going to go back to once we've kind of cross-checked that with what's selling. I would always suggest let's expand that product category based off what you've already sold, because you know that there's existing demand there. You know that you can continue to sell in those categories. And that may be enough to get your foot in the door to say, I don't need to go to baby's first Christmas. I really need to double down on whatever the, graduation stuff is, or I need to double down on, retirement, whatever the cake toppers are that we are selling.
Right.
So I would create that list and then take a look at what's sold for us in the past and start there.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to give a little shout out here to all of our club members that are here with us live, because they're giving us some really good ideas for you, Jen. Frutanical Wares says, can you make shirts for the parties that would use the cupcake toppers? Birthday boy shirt, bachelorette group shirts, right?
Yeah,
that's a great idea. And group shirts are doing better than single shirts, to be honest with you, right? So if you had like a bachelorette party, you're going to sell different shirts. And we've seen those have sold. Now, again, would I have you start there? No, but it's something you could add to your shop. That why not put it in my shop? Because if someone bought the topper, they're obviously having a bachelorette party or a birthday party, and then you could create some group shirts. So that's a great idea. The other one here was banners and party hats might be an option too.
Okay.
Invitations.
Yes.
That'd be another potential, right? Invitations, because if someone's buying the topper, they're probably going to send out invitations. So all of this stuff kind of it goes very well together. And that's what I love to see, because we have now direction, clarity, and we know who we're focusing on. You know, we know what our business is. Our business is not about finding a trend and jumping on it and being that t-shirt shop that's on, you know, the Jersey Strip or whatever, right? It's like, it's not that, right? It's more focused on what you do. And what you do is, like you said in the very beginning, it's like you want to do stuff for milestones or for certain events. Bingo. Like we just nailed it.
Yeah.
Right. We
Yeah.
just nailed it. And
Yeah.
to me, you can kind of play where you want to play too, you know?
Yeah. There's so much opportunity and creativity which is exciting. That's what gets me, you know, excited to do work on Etsy after my full-time job. So it's, I mean, it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's great. So Chris, why don't we do this before we wrap up? Let's just do a little more digging. Let's kind of pull up the Everbee tool and let's do a little digging. This is always the fun part.
Yeah. So do we just want to start with milestones, or
sure, we can start there if you want to. Yeah. Yeah. Let's go ahead and let's see what kind of numbers we got in milestones. But yeah, this is all good stuff. And yeah, a couple people in the comments said, I swear you're all making me so hungry this morning. Tell me about it. All I can do is taste that cupcake right now.
At lunchtime too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So what do we got here, Chris?
So Scott, based on looking at this, do you think that there might be a little bit of cash flow and
there's a little bit for milestones? Yeah, it looks like there is some stuff there. It is personalized, okay, but yeah, there's some numbers here. 1,452 sales on the one. Don't know what it is, but yeah, this is just for first Christmas decoration. Yeah, someone had said that too, Jen. This is another good idea. Yeah. A donut ornament, right? Like a cupcake ornament, right? Like a cupcake ornament. You do cupcake toppers, a cake. Like you could totally do that.
Oh yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
First Christmas decoration. So first Christmas would be maybe at the topper. Yeah. Personalized shot glass with initial and name of age and name. Okay, cool. Yeah, a lot of sales there.
Now I think that would be for after they've gone through a few milestones.
Yes.
Yes. But you know, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Personalized milestones. Here you go. Oh, this is a cool idea. The milestones map.
Oh, that is cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Locations, mountain wall art. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
But do you find like because there is so much there that it's almost saturated? That would be my concern.
No. I would rather have too much than not enough.
Okay.
Because if there's too much, then that's good. That means, and I don't mean it would be bad if there was like not enough sales and too many products.
Okay.
But there's so many sales that it gives me the opportunity to come in there and do better marketing.
Okay.
You know, create better products. You know, that's what it does for me. Instead of it being like, there is demand, but it's, you know, there's only like 10 sellers, but those 10 sellers are trying to get those sales. And you're kind of like, to me, it's like the more demand that there's there, that's more opportunity for you to have the opportunity to come in and grab some of it.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah. So now does that mean that we go right after the top thing? No, we might want to go and drill down maybe a sub level, right? We might want to go a little bit instead of going after a wedding. Maybe we're going to go after, like we had said, maybe it's the bachelorette party cake, cupcake, whatever. Right? Maybe it's that. So that's where the research would come in. But even there, we didn't even look at cake toppers or cupcake or anything like that. We looked at milestones. So that's another thing. So if you're only looking at cake toppers, you might miss out on some of these other milestones that people aren't necessarily creating a cake topper for yet. And then you'd be in there, you know, to be the first one to market.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's awesome.
So Chris, anything else that you can think of? Do you want to dig a little bit more, or
just keep digging?
I know.
So Jen, I think what you just said is one of those things that I think a lot of people get caught up in when there is opportunity. And it's a question Scott and I get all the time, which is like, I want to sell in the wedding niche, but isn't that too saturated? And the answer is no. People are literally getting married every day. There's a 50% divorce rate. So some people are getting married 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 times, right? There are always going to be more customers. Obviously, that's not the goal when you're selling wedding things, to have repeat customers. But if we can find a better way to do that, then that's fine too, right? The question is not, can I sell when there's competition? The question needs to be, how can I sell? What is the angle that I need to take? Where can I stick my foot in the door? And that's when I said, after you go back and you've gone through what's already sold in your shop, take a look at that list and start doing this demand analysis that we're doing right now, using the actual keywords that people are using, not just milestones, but like baby's first birthday, to see what the demand looks like and find out where there's opportunity. And the example that we use all the time is the wedding niche. And we did an analysis of the wedding niche and found a shop that was extremely successful selling something that nobody else was selling, which was wedding pajamas. And they've now expanded beyond just the pajamas to selling other wedding things. So if we can get into baby's first birthday or whatever that first milestone is, we can either build up from there or build back down. And especially if we can find one of those early milestones, the people who are buying from us over and over again, you better believe they're coming back to you before they go to Etsy search results. Because they go, I bought that cake topper from Jen. I got that really cool blanket from Jen, whatever it was. It's now baby's second birthday. And where do I go? I go to the same place. And if we can capture them there, or retirement and work our way backwards, whatever we want to do, it just depends on where you think you can best get your foot in the door. And then you can work up or down that milestones ladder.
Okay.
Yeah. I also think, just to kind of like highlight, having a customer base, like some people are there searching, but some people in your market aren't searching yet. But if you send an email out about graduation because it's coming up, and then they're like, I really need to do that. It's like you're reminding them about the thing that's coming up that they've already thought about, but they haven't taken the time to do it yet. And then in that email, they're one click away from your shop. So that's the difference, is like with the email stuff, is you're able to remind them and they're like, you know what? Thanks so much for reminding me. I've been needing to do this because, I've been so busy. I mean, we've all done that. Right. And we all, maybe you're thinking it, you're like, oh, it's getting close to graduation. I gotta get the graduation stuff going. And then you're just putting it off. And then all of a sudden you get an email and you're like, hey, I've got this new thing and it's for the graduation. And you're like, I got to do it. And then they do it. And then they buy their invitations, and then they buy their cake topper, and then they buy a banner, like whatever, right? They're in that mode now, and you've reminded them because you have the customer base.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm excited for you because I didn't realize that we had already had a thing started over here. And that thing that you started was just put on pause and to play over here. And now we found out that we really got to kind of X this thing over here. And I don't mean like give it up completely. I'm saying like, I would just kind of like let it rest. And then I would go and focus my time over here.
So would I then build on the store so that other store has maybe, I want to say 44 sales on it, as opposed to the 500 on the POD one. Would I then start building out the one with the 44 sales, or somehow bring those items into the one with the over 500 sales so that I can take advantage of that?
Yeah. I don't know how much of an advantage it would be to pull everything over into the other. Your handmade one is probably older, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think because you have like 500 sales, like all of a sudden you're going to have more push in the algorithm. You're only going to have more push in the algorithm with the products that have sold, and you're already starting to see them decline.
Yeah.
So if you launch a product on there, it's a cake topper, and you've never sold cake toppers there, but you have 500 sales, your store isn't really known for that thing anyway. Right. And so the reviews, if someone went on your review and go, oh, lab Christmas thing, cool. Right. You're like, I don't see a huge amount of upside. I see the other one is an aged account. It's seasoned. The 44 sales are for the thing you're going to be selling more of.
Yep.
I think I would build that one out.
Okay. That makes sense. And to be fair, when I did that one, I didn't know what I was doing either. So now that I've learned through the other one, I can now take those lessons and
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
So like I said, that other thing isn't wasted. It's just this is now ready to be refurbished, right? It's like now we're going to do a little remodeling, right? Like it was, it was cool when I first did it, but now I've learned some things and I've got an eye for other types of things in a shop. I want to kind of like redo it. That's how I look at it. You're just remodeling it, but you're not like changing the direction necessarily. The other one, you would be completely changing the direction.
Okay.
Right. Now, if you only had that store and you hadn't started the other one, I'd say, yeah, build off that other one.
Okay.
But we have these two different options. I'm going with the other one because it's seasoned. It's already got sales around the thing that I want to sell more of.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would just update the things, right? New banner,
Okay.
maybe the logo, your announcement.
Mhm.
And I would immediately start, a VIP list, give 20% off your first order, 25% off your first order, something like that, and get that thing in there and then start there. And really, if your products that you have in there right now,
Mhm.
if you can't find one of those that's like your in-demand product, I wouldn't get rid of them, but I would go and do the in-demand research and try to find 3 to 5 products that are in demand that are going to be the ones you're going to start with now and refocus everything around.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, would you shut the other one down or just let it be
I would
until?
just let it set for right now.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, if you have listings on there that haven't had any sales and you're paying for them, I'd probably just archive them. I
Yeah.
wouldn't delete them. I'd just archive,
Okay.
and that way there, you're not really disturbing it. I wouldn't put it in vacation mode. I wouldn't do any of that stuff. I just let it rest. Because the thing is, like nowadays too, you got to remember, like there's a lot of shops that are starting and then they're getting shut down because they're new and like you're already through all that. So I just let that thing just stay where it is right now. I wouldn't mess with it. I would just let it sit. That way, if something did happen, you could always revert over to that one. You kind of have a backup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as long as you're not paying like for like 100 listings and you're not doing anything with them, I would just archive the ones that aren't doing anything. If you want to leave the other ones up because they're getting a few sales here and there, let it go.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's probably what I would do. I think that's a good little action plan. I do.
Yeah, I feel a lot of relief already. Like I just and excitement to get back into the handmade stuff as well. Yeah.
We like to hear that. We like to hear, number one, that you feel less stress. We like to feel or like to know that you're feeling like a sense of relief and also that you're now excited again because you're going to do something that you genuinely enjoy. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? Like, and also know that now you are building a real business. Like we're talking about Etsy, but this thing can completely be on its own website.
Right.
Like you could completely take this thing and move it over here. And then like, once you want to graduate to the big leagues and be in like e-commerce, like big league stuff, that's where it's like, you're going to run Google ads, you're going to have a website, Shopify, like all that stuff. But right now you stay in the minor leagues on the Etsy stuff, build that out. You could build a very, very successful, e-commerce brand just using that. But just know that when you do decide, you could move that thing right over to your own website, have both things running, but you have products now, you have a customer base, you have a lot of leverage to be able to go like, so think about this. If you were only going after the trending stuff, you couldn't really do that. You're not going to build a website on like all these miscellaneous shirts, right? Or mugs. And then you're not going to run Facebook ads to all of these different products or Google ads, right? But if have you ever watched Shark Tank?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you hear them say a lot like, what's your customer acquisition cost?
Yes. Yeah.
Right? The reason why they say that is because it's a real e-commerce business that they're talking about. And they're like, if you can spend, how much is your average order value? They're like $100. They're like, then you can spend $100 to acquire that customer. If you're selling a one-off shirt, you ain't got nothing to spend on acquiring a customer. You got nothing else to sell them.
Yeah. Yeah. Very true.
So this is a real business is the way I look at it, a real e-commerce business. And so I'm excited for you for that because I think what you're doing now is like you're building something that can turn into something bigger. And also it can seem less stressful. And also I just think turn into something a lot bigger for you without the stress.
Yeah. The burnout is real.
It is.
Like
it's a real thing.
They all talk about it and I'm like, no, it is real. And that's what I like about you guys is that you're not, you're not giving like quick little like, hey, do this and hey, do that. It's genuine information that really works and is very, very helpful.
Well, we appreciate that. And Chris, I think we have a new title for a video that's going to be coming out. Are you burnt out with Etsy? Like that's coming, right? And then you
Etsy
just got,
real.
you know, like it is real. I know it's
and
real.
give us an exasperated face quick.
Yeah. It is real. And it's real in all businesses or anything that you're doing. You can get burnt out if you try to go at it too much.
Yeah.
You don't give yourself enough time for breaks and all that stuff. But when you're feeling like what you're doing isn't working because you're all over the place, that's even worse.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I feel like I was running a race and I would never win it because there are just so many people in it. And sure, there are people who get lucky and there's, and again, those are the people giving advice, but I think that maybe they don't realize that that is not the case for like 99% of the people. So trust me, I put the hours in, like hours upon hours. And when I think back to all the things I missed just trying to put the hours into the POD. So it's not a case of not doing that. It's a case of it's really hard to do and break through. And it's, yeah.
And I think the thing is like you spend a lot of time, but if you're spending all that time and you're building assets for your business, that's a different thing. And now you're enjoying it. Right. So that's the difference. Before you were just trying to figure it out. Right now, I think, okay, we figured out the business plan. Now we just have to execute the business plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we know who we're targeting, which I think is the big thing for a lot of people is like when you sit down to create something new, you're going to know who you're creating it for.
Yeah, that's right.
Chris, did you have anything you wanted to wrap up with?
That's half the creation time, right? Like half the time, Jen, you feel like you wasted. The design is not the hardest part, even for somebody like me who has zero design skills. It's figuring out what you want to design. And when you're using the volume or the throwing spaghetti at a wall approach, it becomes a lot more complex to work backwards. Now we know if we work through the action plan, and I want to rattle this off quick, Scott, to make sure I don't miss anything.
Perfect.
Once we have that, then we can just go, what is the next milestone, right? So Jen, 60, 90 days from now, right? The update that we would want to have from you and what I would want to see you do between now and then is first, I'd want to see that list of milestones. Again, feel free to use like Gemini, ChatGPT, like to help you with that. Cause no matter how many you write down, you're always going to miss something weird, like baby's first Kwanzaa or, like some of the things you wouldn't think of because it's not necessarily a part of your life or your tradition, but there may be some huge volume. So I would feel free to jot those down, but also use some assistance from something like an AI tool that will make that process a lot faster for you and potentially find some ones that you wouldn't think of. From there, take a look at your shop, see what is selling already. If there's something there that you can build upon that is selling already, start with that.
Okay.
If not, or once you've done that, then go back to that list and start going through the demand evaluation process to say, hey, if I start with baby's first Christmas, is that better than baby's first Halloween? And start to sort out your priorities and then just start designing for those different milestones. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. That's really helpful. It's really helpful to have structure there and a plan of attack as opposed to just like,
Yeah. And the last little bit there I would give you is I don't know if you're a pen to paper type of person.
I am.
Okay, good. Because I am too. And Chris is as well. I would say sit down and literally like write this stuff down. I think there's a lot of benefits that come from writing it down versus just doing it on the computer. But also I think if you do this, you're going to actually see it on paper and then it's going to be even more tangible. So I would say do exactly what Chris said, but put pen to paper when you can. And then from there, don't get overwhelmed. Just focus on the demand items at first, because we have to remember those items are going to bring the people into the shop.
Okay.
Then from there, we can start playing with the not in demand stuff on Etsy searches, but it's something that our customers would potentially buy.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
All right. So you've got some homework to do, but it's going to be fun this time. I want to thank you so much for coming on and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and come on and kind of share everything. And I know that people are going to get a lot of value. We already had someone in the comments that said this is probably one of the best audits so far. And they're so happy that they were able to attend. So we want to thank you for putting yourself out there.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So that's a wrap for this Etsy shop audit. But if you want to watch more, well, you can find some more right here. And if you do, well, I'll see you there.